I actually do a healing ceremony with people that would like healing prayers. Hear that, Jen? And I utilize these materials during that time, remembering the saints in my family. My grandfather was a Mennonite minister, and Janet was also a very strong person of faith. So these are people that I remember while we do our healing ceremonies, and in my office or at your home or wherever. So if there's a time that you would like that, I will have box will travel. Cleopas and his companions are walking on the road from Jerusalem to Emmaus, talking about and weighed down by Jesus' crucifixion. When Jesus joins them on the road, they do not recognize him immediately. Perhaps their grief and loss blind them. It is when they offer Jesus hospitality, a sign of love, and when he blesses and breaks the bread, that the revelation happens and they recognize the stranger with whom they have been walking and talking. A transformation takes place within these travelers. They shift from standing still in a state of sadness to being on fire. In great haste, they return to Jerusalem to tell the other followers of Jesus what they have experienced: Christ's resurrection and their own. These are companions on the road. Companion is created from the word com, which means with, and pagnon, which is bread. With bread. These are people that we break bread together with. When we eat of the same meal, we think about the energy that is going into each of us, and we are drawn even closer together. This hospitality is where Christ resides. Now, many times I have said you can take these stories literally or you can take them metaphorically, but what I believe is important is you go ahead and live into the story, suspending your disbelief for this time so that you may be able to live into Jesus' life as your own. So with that in mind, I would love for us to do a meditation at this time, a guided meditation. Now let me explain this a little bit. Some of you might not like to do a meditation. That's fine. Just sit quietly and listen to the story, because I'm going to retell the story. Some of you would like to go deeper into the story. So please close your eyes when I ask you to, and then we will go ahead and proceed through the story. Are you ready? Yeah. All right. Would you please close your eyes as you feel comfortable, and breathe in and breathe out, listening to this glorious day. Airplanes, cars, but also birds, and a slight breeze. This glorious day that God has given us. And we are now going to go to the closet and open it up and pull out our story coat. This is a grand old coat that we put on when we are telling our stories. Stories of our family, stories of the Bible, stories of the saints. We put one arm into one part and the other arm in. We have our story coats on, and thus we begin. You find yourself on a road like any other. You are just outside of Jerusalem, headed towards Emmaus, 7 miles away. It's hot and dusty. You begin to hear and feel the slight, dry breeze. Several others are on the road. As you remember why you left Jerusalem, the tragedy of loss, you are picking up the pace. You just have to get out of town. Things have been happening too fast. heartbroken, and resurrection? One foot in front of the other, sandals tamping down dust, even as grief washes over you from head to toe. Nothing went the way we thought. And today's news is even more unbelievable. More unbelievable than last week's. Alive? Is it possible? Why can't I see him? The Romans and the leadership of the temple, they might still be looking for his followers. Just another road like any other road. You can see it, can't you? The reddish dust, the clear blue sky, cracked lips. One foot in front of the other, on the road again. But feeling so alone now. A stranger comes alongside you. Do you talk to strangers? This one seems different, doesn't he? Yes. He walks near you for a ways. It becomes a comfortable silence. Then he asks you a question. What were you thinking about? What are you thinking about? What will you tell him? It's been 3 years. Amazing with this Jesus, with your Jesus. Healings, miracles, parables, feeding people, restoring community, telling stories, loving outcasts. Which story do you tell? You begin to think of your favorite story of Jesus, don't you? You begin telling it to the stranger as you walk along this dusty road. Tell him your favorite story of Jesus. Now, you've got time. One foot in front of the other. This stranger listens well. He asks questions. He nods in all the right places. He seems to know you. He seems familiar. He can tell that the story makes you both excited and sad. As you finish telling your story, you mention that it doesn't make much sense. Things seem to be going so well until that last night, that last dinner, that Passover party. That's when the real questions began. Sure, other things didn't always make sense, but betrayed? Arrested? My leader, my teacher, rabbi, beaten, crucified, killed, and now alive again? The stranger looks at you as you walk down the road, thinking out loud. You keep wondering out loud together as you walk. What are your questions? You know them, don't you? You have the time. Go ahead. Ask. One foot in front of the other. Through the dust, wondering. As you come to the end of your questions, your voice trails off. You both stare down at the road, 1 foot in front of the other, walking slowly together now. Then this stranger begins to tell a story of his own, but it's a story you know well, except this time it begins to make a little bit of sense. Just a little bit. He speaks of the old stories, since the time of Moses, relating them to life this very day. Grief and confusion are still there, but now there's something new, something warm, something blossoming in the desert. Listen, what story is he telling you? As he finishes his story, you look up and realize you're almost home. You've just met this strange man, this story, this listener, this fellow traveler, but you invite him in for dinner to share bread with you, to be your companion. There's something about him. As you sit down at the table, he offers thanks for a journey safely completed, for new friends, for hospitality, for a simple meal of bread and cheese. As he takes some bread and offers you a piece, you see, he's been with you all along, transforming the journey, making it part of the story, part of God's story, part of our journey together on the road, an ordinary road, a road like any other, and yet unlike any you've ever been on. He's alive. It is true, isn't it? You see him. You see him. He is now with you forever. You thank him for being with you here, now. And he fades from view. You feel inflamed with a new truth, this new knowing. He's alive, and you feel so grateful. He is risen. He is risen. You hurry on the road again. What will you tell the others? He is risen indeed. Let us now breathe deeply. We can take our story coats off, take one arm out of the armhole, and the other out of the other sleeve, and hang it back gently on that hanger, and leave it there, and come back into the room. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. We thank Jesus for this journey. We thank Cleopas and we thank the pilgrims who have given us this opportunity to walk along with them. Now every Sunday, every first Sunday of each month, we celebrate our communion with Christ. Most of the time I remembered this Last Supper with Jesus. But what if this time we celebrate this meeting on the road to Emmaus? As we take the bread and as we take the wine today, we are remembering that first occurrence, that first communion after the resurrection. The time that we can share together with the resurrected Christ. So as I move over to the table of communion with God, with Christ, we become companions with Christ.